The Sterling Hotel stood like an exhausted giant in downtown Chicago. Its facade, once a grand statement of 1920s ambition, was now a grim mosaic of cracked marble and stained stone. Inside, a heavy, almost physical silence reigned. Ethan, the night auditor, knew better than to mistake this silence for peace. It was simply the deep, drawn-out breath before the scream. Ethan hadn't taken the job at the Sterling by accident. He had chosen it. He was a self-proclaimed collector of dark history, drawn by the well-known urban legend. The missing 13th floor, the sealed utility shaft, and the chilling historical records that showed 13 people, all elevator riders, had vanished mysteriously in the 1950s. All these incidents were connected to that specific antique service car. Ethan considered himself a skeptic, but tonight, his collection was fighting back. It was exactly 2:15 a.m. when the floor indicator light above the elevator began its assault. Not the gentle, fatigued flicker of old wiring, but a harsh, aggressive strobe that seemed to pulse with malice. Ethan's eyes were fixed on the panel when the light jumped, skipping the 12 and landing on a new, deeply unnerving inscription, the Roman numeral 13. The hotel's silence deepened, becoming so absolute it hurt his ears. Then, a sound, not a bell, but a soft, rhythmic tap-tap-tap echoing from inside the elevator shaft. It sounded precisely like a fingernail, lightly counting on the aged wooden paneling, a slow, deliberate tally being kept. The inscription 13 turned solid, glowing with an unnatural, sickly green light. The counting stopped, and the elevator began its descent. The sound was not the clean whine of steel cables. It was the sickening, wet drag of heavy rope pulling over rough, uneven stone. When the car arrived at G, the brass doors hissed open. The air that hit Ethan was not cold. It was wrong. It was dry, dusty, and carried a sharp metallic tang, like the smell of a forgotten battery mixed with pure, palpable fear. The car was empty, yet the space felt profoundly occupied. Ethan's eyes drifted to the highly polished brass wall panel, where his reflection was momentarily perfect. Then, it fractured. The gaunt, pale man was there, standing perfectly still behind him. The ghost was not looking at Ethan. It was gazing past him, toward the front desk ledger. More specifically, at the small, underlined number 13, Ethan had scrawled in his private maintenance log notes, a simple confirmation of the legend. Ethan felt a crushing, invisible pressure on the back of his neck, forcing him to keep staring at the horrifying reflection. He desperately slammed the door close button, but as he did, a faint, old-fashioned keyhole materialized in the brass panel. A key slowly, deliberately, turned in the empty keyhole, and the doors locked open with a decisive clack. The air inside the elevator shimmered, and a voice filled the lobby. It was the same whisper as before, dry and ancient, but this time it was counting. 9, 10, 11, 12, and then, clearly, right next to his ear, 13. Ready to go up? The paralysis broke. Ethan scrambled backward, overturning his chair, and bolted. He didn't grab his coat or his keys. He didn't stop until he was out the main glass doors and running blindly into the bitter Chicago night. The unseen passenger, he called Jim, his supervisor, his voice raw with terror. "Jim, I saw it. I saw the face that the legend speaks of. The elevator, it wrote 13. It counted me," Ethan managed to gasp out. Jim's sleepy annoyance quickly turned to grim resignation. "Look, Ethan, you listen to me now. Just stay put. Don't go back near that block. The Sterling has always had a way of collecting debts. I'll cover your shift, but you are done there." The supervisor's finality offered no comfort, only confirmation of the supernatural dread. Days bled into weeks. Ethan secured a new job at a sleek, modern, glass and steel corporate tower, the kind of place where everything was electronic, brightly lit, and utterly devoid of history. He told himself that the Sterling's archaic malevolence couldn't follow him here, where the elevators used seamless touchscreens and played soft jazz. He believed he was safe. Exactly 1 month after his escape, Ethan was leaving his new 8th floor office. He pressed the button for the ground floor. The elevator arrived swiftly, bright and smelling faintly of lemon cleaner. He stepped inside, relieved by the sterile normalcy. The doors closed with a gentle whoosh. Ethan looked up at the digital floor indicator. It showed 8, then 7, then 6. Everything was perfect, perfectly modern. He looked down at his watch to check the time. When he looked back up at the indicator, his blood turned to ice. The numbers had vanished. In their place, a single, terrifying light was blinking. It was not the 13, he remembered, but the letter T, written in old, flickering red block letters. Before he could process the change, the letter shifted, morphing into TH. Then, the 8th I. And finally, the word was complete, burning itself onto the digital screen. 13. He felt the car drop, not gently, but violently, making his stomach rise to his throat. The soft jazz was obliterated by the groaning of ancient steel and the high-pitched, manic electric whine of an antique motor. Ethan frantically hammered the emergency stop button, but it was dead. The cold, dusty air carrying that familiar metallic tang rushed into the car. He looked at the shiny steel door. He saw his own reflection, horrified, pale, and desperate. And then, standing directly behind him in the reflection only, was the gaunt, smiling face of the unknown man. The elevator stopped with a sudden, bone-jarring impact. The doors began to hiss open, slowly revealing what lay outside. The voice, dry and like crumbling paper, was now loud and clear, right next to his ear. "I asked you before. Did you want to go up?" The doors were fully open, revealing not the lobby of his new, clean office building, but a wall of crumbling, peeling wallpaper and an absolute crushing darkness that extended endlessly. A single object sat on the threshold, a dusty ledger, identical to the one on his old desk. Its pages were open to a list of names. Ethan could see his own name, written neatly and underlined in red ink, positioned as the 14th name on the list. The voice whispered again, closer this time, a final, chilling statement of purpose. "We don't just collect the lost. We collect the 13 who tried to escape." And now, there's an opening. The shadow stepped out from the darkness of the 13th floor, blocking the remaining light. Ethan took one last, desperate breath as the cold, metallic tang consumed him entirely. The elevator doors, slow and heavy, began to close, sealing the terrified man and the triumphant shadow inside. The indicator light remained fixed on the word 13.